Hi everybody, and welcome to Video Monday. I'm Tisha Mahar, and I hope your week is off to a great start. Mine has been interesting so far. I actually started this really intense cleanse about 2 days ago, so I'm feeling a little bit whacked, but also really good. I'm super aligned and committed to doing what it is that I'm doing, and I really feel intuitively like it's going to give me a really wonderful result. So if you're interested in hearing more about what it is I'm doing, why I'm doing it, I will be sharing more information about this in my group in the next couple days, TESHIA'S GROUP on Facebook, in case you're not already a member. So I'll be telling you more in case it's something you're interested in trying as well. In the meantime, let's get to today's video. One of my special group members posted a question, and the question was basically that this girl wants to try being a vegan again, but the last time she tried, because she's a type 1 diabetic and because she's also an endurance athlete, it really didn't seem to work for her. She experienced weight gain and she experienced a lot of blood sugar lows, which I thought interesting. I would have thought maybe she was having more of a high blood sugar issue. But anyway, she was having low blood sugars and she was having issues with gaining weight. So first of all, when it comes to any diet, I do believe the most important thing is choosing the diet that really feels good for you and that really resonates with, your values and is really aligned with you spiritually. For example, if somebody really doesn't want to eat animal protein, but they just do it anyway, I personally believe that could be a very stressful thing for that person. Like if someone told me the only way for you to be healthy is if you eat steak 4 times a day, I would be like eating that food and I'd be like, oh, I hate my life. And like, how could that food possibly be metabolized into health for me? I don't believe it could. So a big part of the right diet for you, I do believe, is the one that feels spiritually aligned for you. Okay, so that's the number one thing. So I think, Tiffany, I just said your name. I hope it's okay that I said your name, and I'm going to trust my instincts that it is. So this lovely gal is Tiffany. She's amazing. I think, Tiffany, if it feels better for you to be vegan, I think that you can do it. It just might require that you take more time to figure it out before you jump in. So, for example, you guys, when you have diabetes, it's not only food that causes fluctuations in the blood sugar. Stress, like not sleeping or an emotional stress that happens in your life or whatever, and also exercise, these things can throw off the blood sugar levels just as much as food can. So with what Tiffany is doing, it's even trickier because she's diabetic, which means her body doesn't produce insulin. Her pancreas doesn't produce insulin in response to the foods that she eats. And she's also working out a ton. She's exercising a lot. So these things are going to make it really tricky no matter what type of diet you're on. So when it comes to managing diabetes, and that's type 1 or type 2. Type 2 diabetes, it's similar, but it's different. With a type 2 diabetic, the body does release insulin, but there's like this lockdown happening, and the sugar can't enter the cell. So it can manifest as a similar symptom as the type 1 diabetic, but it's a very different mechanism. Either way, I do believe if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, it can be managed through diet and through a vegan diet. Now, in terms of managing diabetes with a vegan diet, there are 2 schools of thought. There is the low carb, high fat vegan approach, or the low-fat, high-carb vegan approach. So one diet is comprised predominantly of carbohydrate, the other is very high fat. Now, with regards to this, there's two schools of thought. There are a lot of people out there who are managing diabetes with the high carb approach. There are a lot of others managing it with the high fat approach. And that also goes for type 1s. That might be really hard to believe. There are type 1 diabetics who are utilizing what's called a ketogenic diet, and they do seem to be having success with that. Now, if you wanted to go that approach to this, that's going to be a lot trickier, and I would really seek guidance before jumping into that. Basically, when you go keto or when you go low carb, your body has to learn to burn fat as fuel. You have to essentially fat adapt, it's called. So you become fat adapted, and then your body isn't relying on sugar in the same way. Your body can easily tap into its fat stores. And it can be a really awesome diet for a lot of people, but like all diets, it doesn't work for everybody. So if you're a diabetic that wants to try keto, do a ton of research first. And you can message me and I can provide you with some resources. There's one keto athlete in particular who I was listening to an incredible interview with. I'll post that in the information section below this video so that you can have a listen. But people do seem to be doing it, again, on both sides, high fat or high carb. If you want to try going the higher carb approach, obviously you'll be able to probably do it in a similar way as you are doing your current diet. You'll have to measure the amount of carbohydrates to the amount of insulin that you're using. Now, the high carb people, what they're doing or what they're saying is that high carb but low fat is allowing them over time to reduce the amount of insulin to carb they need to, the ratio of insulin to carb that they need to take. So you could experiment with higher carb and keeping those fats really low, like 20 grams of fat a day, and see how that serves you. Perhaps before you were doing high carb and high fat and high calorie in general. So there's obviously a ton of room for explanation here, and I wish I had a simple answer for you, but I don't. It's tricky. It's really tricky, especially in this situation. But absolutely, there's a ton of research out there for you to explore in terms of both sides of this. When you mentioned to me that you gained weight before, my immediate instinct was that you were either eating just more calories than you really needed, even though, it may not have seemed like it. It's possible that you were taking in more than you needed, or that perhaps, your body just doesn't tolerate a high carb approach before, because I know for a fact you weren't keeping your carbs super low. So you may have been doing too high carb, and that was causing that rebound hypoglycemia. And this is something that possibly going lower fat would maybe help you to get around, or what the keto approach might help you get around, because once you're not relying on the sugar in the same way, you may find that your blood sugar stays more like this instead of up and down, up and down. Now, there are two doctors who specifically talk about these two approaches from both sides. The high-fat vegan guy is Dr. Gabriel Cousens, who I'm a super fan of. I actually have been to his center in Arizona myself. It's called the Tree of Life. And while I was there, I personally met a woman who was type 1 diabetic and who had, she claimed, reversed her diabetes through his approach. Absolutely something to look into. Would I suggest going on to that diet right away? Absolutely not. I am not a doctor. You don't want to take my advice like I am one, and you certainly need to go slow with whatever you do and monitor your body and your reactions. But absolutely, Gabriel Cousens has had a lot of people through his center that claim that his vegan approach of a higher fat plant-based diet, specifically his approach is high raw, so he's not including like a lot of grains or beans or anything like that. It's like a high vegetable healthy fat diet basically. Tons of good information out there about his approach. The other approach, Dr. Neil Barnard, something like that. You'll be able to find it easily with a search. He is the high carb vegan guy to look into. So both doctors are coming out with lots of great claims. Both seem to be having awesome results with their approaches. The commonality here is veganism. So both guys are in agreement that it is the animal protein and it is the high saturated fat intake in the diet that is causing the issues with insulin metabolism. Obviously, I can't say that that is the truth. It's, these are theories. These are based on their experiments, their results, their clients. But absolutely cool information to look into. Whatever you decide to do, if you want to make the transition to vegan, start by just cutting out processed foods, cutting out all refined sugar, and also lowering or eliminating your alcohol and your caffeine. Those things in and of itself should help you get a much better gauge of how the food in your diet is affecting your blood sugar. And of course, manage your stress levels, because that can throw things off huge in terms of the blood sugar for diabetics and non-diabetics. So once, make sure you do this at a time when your stress is under control. And once that's in place, work on cleaning up the diet first, because that could, that'll really help you get a better sense of what's really happening with you. So move to a whole foods-based, plant-based diet. And then decide whether your body seems to do better with high carb or whether your body seems to do better with high fat. Now, when it comes to the high fat, no matter who you are, when you switch to that from a high carb plan, you're going to feel wacky and shitty. But if you give it a little bit of time, your body should adapt. Takes sometimes about a month, sometimes less, and then you might feel better than you have in your whole life. So you might have to give that one some time. But start simple. Start just going plant-based, whole food. It's possible, Tiffany, that maybe the last time you did it, you were eating refined sugars or even like isolated sugars like agave, and maybe you were having lots of honey or things like that to support your exercise. And because of the amount of exercise you're doing, if you're going the high carb approach and you decide you don't want to try to keto adapt, if you're going the high carb approach, probably you're going to be able to tolerate much more carbohydrate. So again, you would just want to get rid of the sugars, I would say, a lot of the refined sugars, and even maybe some of the fruit and grains, which could have caused you to go too high and then to come down too low. So I would focus for you first on plant-based, vegan, whole foods, and getting most of your carbohydrates from tons of vegetables and maybe some legumes. So things that cause the blood sugar to stay a little bit more stable. So maybe before you were doing like lots of tropical fruit or refined sugars, and that could have caused things to go a little wacky. So I would also suggest to you that when you try this out, do it at a time when you're not training for your marathon, because again, you really want to be able to get a good sense of how your body is responding. And sometimes when there's too many parameters at play, too many variables shifting around, it can be really hard to say what's causing what. For example, today, like doing this cleanse, if I had done my typical workout, like a pretty intense workout, which I do about 4 times a week, if I had done that today, it's likely that I would have had, more cravings, for example, for things, whether it was chocolate or carby things or something. And I right now want to stay off of all sugars and keep my carbs much lower. And I'll explain why in the group. But so I chose, and I'm going to be choosing for the next couple weeks probably, to do very little exercise, because I know that that's probably going to help me be more successful with what it is that I am committed to doing. So if possible, Tiff, I would try to do this at a time when you can do just moderate exercise, like maybe walking or some gentle yoga, those kinds of things, because that's going to help you really get clear about what your body is doing and how your body is responding. I hope that's been helpful to you. Please message me or post in the group, even better, because then other people can benefit too. About any other questions you have below, or you have about this, you can post them below this video, and I'm more than happy to answer anything that you want to know, any further tips that you feel you need as you embark on becoming vegan. So thanks for watching, guys. As always, join the group if you're not already a part of it. TESHIA'S GROUP is the name. Again, search it on Facebook. If you're interested in doing a consult with me, I am available for this. I'm getting quite busy this week, so there's something going on. Maybe it's the transition into fall, but I will make time. I always make time. I always do my best to work around your schedule. So you can either message me through Facebook, or you can send a message to my email address, info@teshiamahar.com, and I would be happy to set up a time for a consult with you about any health goals, body goals that you may have. It is my pride and joy, this work, so I'm happy to do it, and I can do this with you from anywhere in the world. I'm literally a world traveler these days. I'm doing these videos from, as you can see in the background, all different hotel rooms, and I just do my consults over Skype, and it works perfectly, so keep that in mind. Nice to chat with you guys as always, and I hope you all have a fantastic week. Stay tuned in the group for more information about my crazy cleanse. Bye, everybody.